My name's Bob Darrow, and I am alcoholic. Through God's grace that I've accessed and maintained in my life through the principles of the 12 steps process that I found in the big book, good sponsorship, a lot of commitments, and bushels of newcomers. I haven't had a drink or any mind or emotion altering substances since Halloween 1978. And that's a miracle. I want to thank Ray and the members of the committee for the privilege of coming down here, participating in Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the fluff, the icing on the cake. If you were to really find out what I do, where the meat and potatoes are in Alcoholics Anonymous, for me, come to Las Vegas. Mondays at noon, I'll take you with me into a rescue mission. Monday night, I'll take you to a step workshop. Tuesday at noon, I'll take you into a Skid Row detox. Tuesday night, I'll take you to another step workshop. Wednesday at noon, I'll take you back into the rescue mission. Wednesday night, if I could get you cleared, I'll take you into the county jail. Thursday at noon, I'll take you back into the detox, and then Thursday night, I'll take you to my home group. The main meeting of all these other meetings are satellites of, and that's really the meat and potatoes for me. It's going to those hospital and institution meetings and sitting with guys and helping them go through the steps and going through that book and listening to the 5 steps and the privilege of encouraging scared people to make amends that are frightening and watching guys get their kids back and watch the lights go on as they start to sponsor people. And that's really the meat and potatoes. This is the icing on the cake here. This is great, but that's what keeps me alive. I wouldn't stay sober. I don't think we have a right to do this unless we're doing that other stuff, really. I have a sponsor. I sponsor guys. I step up to the plate. I live in a city. We joke and we call it the hitting bottom capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. But I'll tell you something. On the square, if you get it that your primary purpose, that your whole life has brought you to this point so you can be useful to guys who are sick like you're sick, Las Vegas is a gold mine. I'm telling you, it's a gold mine. I love living there for that purpose. There's an endless supply of 12-step work to do. It keeps even the most self-centered people like me out of myself on a regular basis. I want to thank Len for picking me up at the airport. We had a nice talk on the way over here. And I know that he's a really tremendous member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he's helped an awful lot of people here. And AA really is the backbone of Alcoholics Anonymous here, and the people in AA really don't appreciate it very well. I may need a ride to the airport now. You got me covered. Good. This has been a great week. I tell you, I love Gary's talk last night. I'm a big book fundamentalist. I'm an activist. I didn't mean to be when I got here, and I didn't want to be. It's a process of elimination. Everything else hurts too much. Everything else doesn't work. I've become the guy that I used to judge so harshly when I was in and out of the rooms. I've become that guy. And I didn't mean to. It's just nothing else works. I know there's a lot of new people here. I really want to welcome you. I'm real glad you're here. I want you to know that I came to Alcoholics Anonymous I've been coming to meetings since I was a young kid in 1970 through an institution. I didn't get sober until 1978. If you're sitting here and you've been a relapser for a number of years, I'm your guy. There's only 2 guys here that I really care about that I have anything to say to, and it's the guy who can't get a foothold in Alcoholics Anonymous, that you suspect that something's wrong with you that's not wrong with the rest of the people, because when you stop drinking, you're not like them. I'm talking to you because you are me. And I'm also talking to another guy, the guy that's leaving Alcoholics Anonymous, and he doesn't even know he's leaving. And he's doing it one judgment at a time. And I'm talking to you because I am you also. And I've been in danger of that in my sobriety. I came to meetings, and I've come to meetings. I've gone to thousands and thousands of meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous, and I can tell you the truth. Most of the time, I don't get it why I'm here. I came for years because I had to get things signed for the courts. I came for a period of time because I was in places that made me go to meetings. I came for in this period of this last a little over 26 years. I've come at times to see my friends. I've come at other times to meet newcomers. I've come at other times because my sponsor told me to. I've come at other times because I had a commitment. I didn't want to miss it and look bad. I've come at other times because I've been afraid, or I've had resentments or financial problems or relationship problems, and I've been wrong every time. And sometimes I don't really get it why I'm here until I'm in the middle of the meeting and I realize that I'm here for alcoholism, that I have a bad case, and it's never gone away. And sometimes it looks like God brings me here and brings me to this place for all these other reasons, but the really reason I'm here is I have alcoholism. And this is the only place I've ever come in my whole life that works for me. And it's not just the meetings, it's the reminder in here of this way of life that I have to live in order to be okay with me. So if you're sitting here and you're new, or maybe you're not so new and you're here for a lot of other reasons, maybe you're like this guy who goes up to Alaska, and he goes up there to hunt bear. And he's searching around, hunting in the woods, and he finally spots this little brown bear, and he gets a bead on this bear, and he shoots him dead. Goes over to skin him, tap on his shoulder, he turns around, it's this huge black bear. The black bear said, "You killed my cousin, by rights I ought to kill you. But I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to have my way with you." And man, he does, and it's bad too. This guy's in a hospital for a week, can't walk, it's really bad. He gets a resentment, and he says, "I'm going to get that black bear." And he goes back up to Alaska, and he searches, takes him a week and a half, finds that black bear, gets a bead on him, shoots him dead. About ready to skin him, there's a tap on his shoulder, he turns around, there's a huge grizzly bear. The grizzly bear says, "You killed my cousin, by rights I ought to kill you, but I'm not, but I'm going to have my way with you, and it's going to be real bad." And oh man, it was bad. This guy was in the hospital 3 weeks, couldn't walk for almost a month, raised his voice an octave. It was bad, I'm telling you. He gets out of the hospital, he's got a resentment, he said, I'm going to get that grizzly bear. He goes back to Alaska, it takes him 3 weeks, stalks that bear, gets a bead on him, shoots him dead, is ready to skin him, there's a tap on his shoulder, he turns around, there's the hugest polar bear he's ever seen. Polar bear says, "You're not here for the hunting, are you?" Maybe you're not here while you think you're here. And maybe sometime in this weekend, you will hear something that will connect you here with a purpose you never knew you had. And sometimes I think I treat my alcoholism as I claim my primary purpose. Bill Wilson said something in his story. Bill was a tremendous visionary. He said that unless the alcoholic will enlarge his spiritual life by self-sacrifice and continual work with other alcoholics, he will never survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. And I was given a purpose, and my purpose is to serve an ethic higher than myself. I'm the guy who served myself and my needs, my wants, my gratification all my life. And I came here broken, and you gave me an ethic and a service and a thing to serve that was greater than me. 1977, I was in a halfway house, and I'd been a chronic relapser by this time since 1970, actually. And this was the first few years I was in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was kind of, AA was like a foxhole for me, and I don't think I really wanted to get sober. I wanted to get the heat off, and I was in trouble in my life. I'm the guy that I go on a run, and I can't shut it down when you're supposed to, and I always burn my life to the ground. Always burn it to the ground. And I come back into Alcoholics Anonymous to recoup. But the last couple years wasn't like that. The last couple years, man, I'm just at the end of my rope. And I'm trying not to drink, because I just destroy myself. And I've wrung all the fun out of it. And it's brutal now. And I'm in this halfway house, and I'm sober about 10, maybe 11 months, which with untreated alcoholism for an alcoholic of my type, that is a tremendously long time. Because when I stop drinking, I get a feeling like I'm doing time. And I stop drinking and I become progressively more restless. This inability to be settled anywhere where I don't know where I'm supposed to be, but it's not here. And I'm irritable, and because life and people especially just rub me the wrong way. I'm the guy, when I quit drinking, I just become acutely aware of what's wrong with everybody. You know what I mean? And I get this sense of urgency to tell them. And if you're like that, sobriety's a lonely business for a guy like that. And I'm chronically malcontent. There's something wrong with me that the shine of things wears off so quickly for me. And nothing really rings my bell very long. I'm the guy that can see something, oh, this is it. That ain't it. Oh, this is it. Oh, that ain't it either. And I just go through life like that. Just excitement and disillusionment, excitement and disillusionment. And so I drink. And I drink because these emotions and my relationship to the rest of the world and the loneliness and the feelings of anxious apartness that I get as a result of being the judgmental guy that walls himself off from everybody else eventually backs me into a corner. And I'm in this halfway house and I'm sober, I don't know, 10 months, maybe 11, a long time for me, being restless, irritable, and discontent. A long time with these low-level depressions. A long time with a feeling of uselessness. A long time with a feeling like abstinence feels like I'm doing time. And I tough it out. I'm a short fuse alcoholic. I think every one of us without exception, the minute we put down the last drink, with untreated alcoholism, it's like lighting a fuse. And I have a guy that I sponsored. He went dry with untreated alcoholism for 23 years before I took him through the steps. And to say he was a little brisk was a beyond. I mean, that's an overstatement. This guy, he didn't even. Not only didn't he have any friends left, he didn't even have any acquaintances. I mean, he was. Oh, but he has a long fuse. He's an ex-Navy chief. He's a tough guy. I'm a short fuse kind of guy. And some people are situated with finances and stuff that they can throw a lot of stuff at the vacancy. And I used to imagine that if I was properly financed, maybe I could still stay sober long term if I could arrange my life with a non-stop series of self-gratification events. You know what I mean? Like a new $80,000 car every third day, a new Harley every fifth day, a new girlfriend every seventh day, a new house and a new trip. You know, if I could just keep that stuff there, maybe I wouldn't have to get to that point where there's no longer anything I can put between me and me. But I always get to that point, and I get to it quickly, where I can't put anything between me, and then it's just me. And I've never liked that much. And my big secret is I ain't real happy about me, and I ain't really happy about sober, and I'm the chronic malcontent. So I'm in this place, and I'm sober 10, maybe 11 months, and I can't take it anymore. And I don't want to burn my life to the ground. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to lose my place to live. But I got to do something here. I got to. And so I called up a guy I'd been in the detox with, and he was back to drinking, and I suspected he was. And he lives a couple towns over. He lives in this little trailer, and he's telling me, he says, man, you ought to come down here. He says, I found this rock and roll bar with great bands. He says, I got some Thai stick, and there's some good-looking girls there. You know, I've been sober a long time now, 10 or 11 months. I've had about as much fun in sobriety as I can stand. And I'm ready. I'm over ready. So he's telling me about this. I'm drooling on the phone. Oh, man, this is going to be great. And I got a weekend pass out of there, and I got a plan. I got a plan because I'm still a victim of an illusion. The illusion that under the right set of circumstances, if I really get behind it, I'll be able to control and enjoy my drinking. And what that means is that I'll be able to jumpstart the party and get back to the good old days, you know, when it was magic. And I'll be able to control it enough to keep the damage down to something I can live with. That's the illusion. I think I have that much control. I never was so deluded to think that I wouldn't pay some kind of price. I just think I have enough control to keep it down. And I meet that guy, and I'll tell you the best part of that run, as it was the last 3 years I drank probably was the couple hours before it started. You know, the anticipation, it's going to be great. And I meet with that guy, and we shoot down to this bar he'd been telling me about, and I'm drinking double shots of 100 proof Southern Comfort beer back, because when you only got a weekend, you got to get downtown now. You need that 100 proof, right? So I want to get downtown now. And so I'm throwing those shots back, waiting for the kid, waiting for the magic to happen, waiting for it like it was when I was 20 years old. You know what? When it's working, it's just marvelous. Remember the good old days when, man, you get that glow on a guy. I could walk into a dance or a party or somewhere and I don't fit anywhere. And man, 3 or 4 or 5 drinks, I could come out and play. I could talk to people. About 7 drinks, I loved everybody. I love you, man. You remember that? I remember moments with the gang of guys I hung around with where I just feel so connected to them, almost bring tears to my eyes. I could be funny, and I could shoot pool better than I could shoot pool, play the guitar and sing better than I could play the guitar. I could dance, and I can't dance. I could be deep. Remember 3 o'clock in the morning and deep, cracking the secrets of the universe, right? I just say things that would just blow my mind, you know. And then I sober up, and I'm always back to being me again. And I'll tell you, a couple years after I lost the ability to recapture that, I chased it under an illusion I'm going to recapture it again. Some of us die because we believe you know what delusion is? It's psychotic, wishful thinking. It's all the evidence is the party's over, but I don't want it to be over, and I don't want it to be over so bad that I start to imagine it's not going to be over this time till the point where I believe it. And I went on that last drunk, and I'm throwing down those double shots, and trying to jumpstart that deal because I want to have some fun. I'm just dying of loneliness and abstinence. I don't fit very good. I'm depressed. I'm half depressed all the time. I don't do too good. And I can't jumpstart it. And yet the phenomenon of craving always has waited for me when I start to take a drink. And because the phenomenon of craving is on me as a result of the effect of alcohol, that's the all that's left in the bottle for me now is this phenomenon of craving. And so I'm hammering down those drinks, trying to frantically get some relief. And all I get anymore, and all I got was the last 3 years was oblivion. There's no more party. And as I'm sinking, I remember sitting in that bar, and I'm depressed, and I'm almost like so depressed. I'm feeling sorry for myself. And I'm looking at the people in the bar that are laughing and dancing with the girls and the guys over here that are shooting pool and all that stuff and the fun that's going on. And I really sinking into this abyss of depression and self-pity because I could remember when I was all of that. And I ain't that no more. And I can't get that back. And I knew something within me that I did not want to know. I knew that the deal was up. I can drink myself to death, I can drink myself into oblivion, but I will never recapture that again. And I knew that because I'd been trying for 3 years. And I got some amphetamines because I was starting to sink into oblivion, and if you only got a weekend, you don't want to miss nothing. And I got some amphetamines. I drank all that night, all the next day, late Saturday night. And the last thing I remember is we went back to this guy's trailer, and he goes and passes out, and I'm supposed to crash on his couch, but I'm still awake. And I'm the kind of alcoholic, if I'm awake, I ain't done drinking. You know what I mean? I'm not. But I'm out of money. And he left his wallet on the kitchen counter and his car keys. So I'm not a thief, but I do know when a loan's appropriate. And I took a little money out of his wallet, and I got his car keys, and I'm going out to finish the deal. Here's what I'm going to go. I'm going to go down to this bar. It's just about ready to close. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to load up with a series of double shots real quick. I'm going to buy a 6-pack of beer, maybe malt liquor, 16 ounce, to bring back to the trailer so I can put myself to sleep, because I got to put myself to sleep, because I don't do it any other way. I can't just sleep. Not when the phenomenon of craving's on me. I can't. I have to pass out. And the next, I must have went to that bar and started those double shots, and that's the last thing I remember. Vaguely going in there, and the next thing I know, I'm coming to in a county jail. Not an unusual thing for me. I've come to a lot of times in county jails and not remember being arrested. And I'm in there, and I find out I'm in there for a hit-and-run, DUI, and a stolen car. I'm facing a couple years in a state penitentiary. I kind of missed the mark of keeping down to reasonable damage in my life here. And they gave me my phone call. And I'll never forget this. It was a horrible, depressing, awful, awful feeling. There's not a person on the face of the earth to call. There's nobody left. And I had parents that were non-alcoholic. I had parents that adored me, that loved me. And what I did to my parents is I gave them such an emotional battering over the years that they were forced to cut me out of their life. And it didn't sit well with them because I loved me so much. It was so bad that my mother, who was a non-alcoholic, was on tranquilizers and seeing a therapist. And my father slept 15, 16 hours a day because he couldn't live with what was happening to their son that they had to push out of their life that they loved so much. And I often tried to tell other people how I didn't hurt anybody except me. Right? There was no women to call. I mean, it's not that I wouldn't have liked a relationship. It's just hard to get one going on when you're homeless. I mean, it's really, I mean, what do you say to somebody? Hey, sweetheart, you want to come back to the TV room in the halfway house and watch a movie? I mean, there's not a lot of panache in that. I didn't have any more run-in partners anymore because I got to the point where as the disease progressed and I'm losing my ability to get the effect and the ease and comfort, I drank more frantically. And so I'm the guy, if we get a jug of Thunderbird or Richard's Wild Irish Rose and I'm sharing it with you or a couple guys, I'm so driven in my drinking, you're not going to get your share. And I don't even like people like that, and I'm that guy. I'm the guy that's selfish when it comes to drinking because I'm trying to keep the madness at bay. So there's no one to call, so I start calling bail bondsmen. But, they want you to have like a job and an address and stuff. I don't have any of that stuff. So I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in that county jail, and I didn't go for recovery. I'll tell you, I'd given up on Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'd been up to this time, I'd probably been in maybe 200, 300 meetings, I guess. And I didn't even want to go anymore. But I went to this meeting for two reasons. I went there because I didn't have any cigarettes. All I had was a little pouch of Bull Durham and some Bugler papers that the county had given me. And I hate that stuff. And I went in there because I knew from being around AA that people in alcoholics, so there's some people in AA that have a lot of money. There are people in AA that have influence, and I'm always trying to run an angle. Maybe I'll find somebody that'll go to a judge or put my bail up or something. I don't know. So I'm sitting in this meeting in this place, in this kind of classroom kind of deal, waiting for the do-gooders from AA to come in. They're always coming in places. It's not that I'm not like them. And I'm not like them because I have experiential evidence that I'm not like them, and it's primarily comes down to this. They quit drinking, and look at them. They're everything I'm not. They quit drinking, and they're happy about everything. They're grateful. They have great success stories. They're happy and sober. I know happy. I know sober. I don't know happy and sober. And I don't think I have alcoholism. I don't know what I have, but whatever I have, it's not the same thing that's wrong with these people in AA. Because I quit drinking, and I go to your meetings, and I'm not anything like you in here. So I'm sitting in there, and here comes the do-gooders from AA, and leading the pack is a guy named Woody. And I knew Woody. I didn't want to see Woody. Woody used to bring the meetings into the detox I was in. Woody used to bring meetings into the halfway house I was in. Woody was one of those guys in AA that I tell you, I couldn't stand him. Woody's the kind of guy that'd sit in the back of the room and judge really harshly. Woody's that kind of guy that talks about the steps and God, and he's grateful for everything, and everything's funny to him, and there's nothing funny about nothing, And here he comes, and on a good day, when things aren't really that bad in my life, I can kind of handle being around a guy like Woody, but this is not a good day. And here he comes, and so I go up and I shake his hand. I said, I went into some little spiel. I don't know what I said to him, something along the lines of, I'm sorry I let you and the guys in AA down, or like I imagined everybody in AA went into mourning because I drank or something. I remember apologizing to him, and I started telling him I had these plans, and I started telling him about the plans about getting out of there. And I asked him if he'd help me. Do you know anybody that can help me get out on bail? And I'm going to beat this, and I'm going to get into a good halfway house. And I started telling him, not like that one I was in. I started telling him what was wrong with the one I was in. And I was going to get some, they used to have money for alcoholism then, for Volk rehab money that would pay for you to go to school from the government. I was telling him about my plan to do that. And maybe I'll be a doctor or a lawyer or something, And Woody's just shaking his head, looking at me. And what he says to me, he says, "Kid, who are you kidding?" He said, "You're not going to stay sober." He said, "Who are you trying to fool here? You haven't hit a bottom. You haven't surrendered. Kid, you're not going to make it." And I didn't say anything to him because I don't do confrontation well sober. You give me a pint of whiskey, I'd have been all over him. But sober, I'm this guy. I'm the guy who withdraws and I'll think at you. And I sat in that meeting and I thought at him deeply. And I went back to my cell that night and I ran those scenarios through my head about, what an idiot that guy is. What is he saying that to me for? I don't need this negativity. I need positive reinforcement here. I don't need this negative stuff. And I'm thinking, what's he hit a bottom? What's he talking about? He doesn't know anything about me. He doesn't know I've lost everything. What does he mean hit a bottom? Him with his Cadillac and his big home and his good job and his wife and kids. He don't know nothing about me. Surrender. Surrender what? There's nothing left of me. A couple years ago, I had some stuff. But that's all gone now. I don't know what he's talking about, surrender. I know exactly what he's talking about today. What he saw looked at me the way I've looked at probably over 1,000 guys in institutions that I've been involved in nonstop for a little over 26 years. I've never gone to less than 2 H&I meetings a week. And I see myself in those guys every single week. And what Woody saw is he saw a guy that was dying of alcoholism, that had repeatedly and continually burnt his life to the ground, and yet was insisting on being at the helm of his own ship, in spite of what was happening to him. And I couldn't see that. And I didn't know when Woody said surrender. I surrender what? Surrender what? There's only one thing I have to give up. And I believe this with everything in me. One thing. And it's the hardest thing a guy like me will ever surrender and give up. And it's not the house, it's not the job, it's not the relationships, it's not the family. I've seen guys surrender, give the thing up, and they're still making 6 figures a year and have big homes and never went to jail or nothing. And they can surrender that one thing. And then there are other guys that can't. And they'll go all the way down past where I went, and they'll be the guys that I've known over the years that drank themselves into oblivion in some cheap hotel somewhere, and then they threw up while they were passed out and they drowned in their own vomit, or the guys that hang themselves or overdose on drugs or get shot in robberies that get out of control. Nice guys that would never hurt anybody, and they go in there and they pull a gun at the wrong time and shoot somebody, and then they get shot. And it just gets away from them because they can't give up the one thing. And I didn't know what that one thing was until I heard a guy named Chuck Chamberlain talk in early sobriety. When I heard him talk, I realized that this one thing, it had been surrendered within me, coming off my last drunk, and I didn't do it. It was really surrender. I was surrendered by the bottle. And what that thing was my judgment. In step 3, when it says we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, I didn't know what they were talking about. I know what I try, and I'm the guy who tries to turn my life over to God, and I think my will's with it, but I don't know what my will is, so I'm retaining my will. And it wasn't until I heard an attorney say this. He said, he's talking about wills. And he said, you know what your last will is, don't you? It's your last judgment. You judge these people to be idiots, they don't get nothing. These people you judge to be good, they get something. And what I'm doing is I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and I tried some of the stuff you suggest. I'm trying to turn my life over to God, but I'm retaining my will. And if you do that, it's like, God, here's my life. And there's a list coming of how it better go. Because I'm the great I am. I'm the guy who knows. Right? And I didn't stay sober, and after I got out of that county jail, a kind judge sentenced me to 2 years in a state penitentiary and then stayed the commitment. He said that if you get good PO reports, good UAs, make the restitution, do everything you're supposed to do, you come back in front of me in a year. And if you've done all that, we'll reduce this down to a misdemeanor and you'll be all right. And if not, you're going to go do the 2 years. And I'm in this place called the Ark House, which it's not even a treatment center, really. It's a homeless shelter run by a member of Alcoholics Anonymous on the north side of Pittsburgh, a guy named Chuck K. And I'm in this place, and I'm hanging on, and I'm hanging on, and I'm hanging on. I'm not drinking day in and day out, and week in and week out, and month in and month out. And I'm just getting it up to here. See, I'm the guy that when I stop drinking, for all practical purposes, that is when I begin to suffer from alcoholism. But it's such a subtle suffering that it doesn't make any sense. And I spent a lot of time in therapy with some great psychiatrists, but it never touched my alcoholism. I took all the medications that were available at the day, and it never did anything except eventually gave me just enough relief to hunger for more. And eventually set off the phenomenon of craving, or at least the obsession for more of an effect. I tried all that stuff, and I don't know what's wrong with me. But when I stopped drinking, this restless, irritable, and discontent thing that Silkworth talks about, the problem with that for me is it's not big restless, big irritable, big discontent. It's subtle. It goes right below the horizon. And it's just a slow emptiness in here that just gnaws away at my resolve not to drink. And you know what it's like? I saw this movie one time about this guy who was an American spy, and he got captured by, I think it was the Chinese, and they're trying to torture secrets, some kind of information out of this guy, and they've beaten this guy with rubber hoses and for days, and this is a tough guy. He won't tell them nothing. And then finally this little Chinese doctor comes into the room, and he says, I give you Chinese water torture, you tell me everything. And this big macho spy says, water torture? What are you going to do, Doc? I ain't telling you nothing. He says, I drop a drop of water on your forehead every few seconds, and you tell me everything. The guy says, Doc, you hit me with rubber hoses for a week now. Didn't give you think a drop of water? Hit me with a fire hose. Hit me with buckets of water. Go do your best. He says, no, one drop. And he hits him with that first drop as he's strapped in that chair, and he laughs it off. Hit me with another. Nothing there. After a week, he'll tell him anything. And that's the way my alcoholism is. It doesn't make any sense to me. This malady of my spirit, that this thing that comes over me when I stop drinking, no matter how tremendous my resolve is to not drink anymore, no matter how much I get it, that it is a bad idea, that I will burn my life to the ground because I know I have the phenomenon of craving. I know I have the allergy. But the knowledge of having the allergy and the phenomenon of craving never has helped me. I have drank knowing all about that, because I got a malady of my spirit that always drives me back to drinking. The book says there comes a time when I have no effective mental defense against the first drink. The memory of the suffering and humiliation of that last run have no effect on me at all. It just goes into some kind of blind spot where I can't see it anymore. And all I can see is the illusion of maybe there'll be some ease and comfort in it again like there was when I was 20 years old. And so I'm in this place, and I'm not drinking for as long as I can take it. And I went on my last run. And I went on the last run because I didn't know what else to do. I thought, I'm dying here. And I feel like that, sitting in the middle of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, going to meetings, and I'm dying here. I used to get this sick, lonely feeling in AA, like it was all of you, and then there's me. And all I can do is pretend here and I know I'm the phony guy. I try to talk about being happy and being everything that you are, and I know I'm the phony guy here. Because nothing has really changed within me. And I can't take it anymore, and I go on my last run, and now I'm facing 2 years at a state penitentiary, and I have no place to live, and I'm living in this park. And I don't want to do this anymore. I got to a place that it talks about in a vision for you where you can't imagine life with it anymore because I can't jumpstart the party. And yet I can't imagine life without it either because abstinence is just, it's such a depressing, lonely place for me. And I feel like I'm stuck. And so I went to a bridge with a bottle of Richard's Wild Irish Rose to take my life. And I'm not a suicidal guy, but if drinking sucks and not drinking sucks, suicide can start to look like a good idea to me because it doesn't look like there's door number 3. And I don't get that AA is door number 3. I don't get that because I've been to AA meetings, and I don't think that you have an answer for me. I remember one time in a halfway house saying I was just so depressed and bored, and I just feel awful. Saying to this old timer, "What do you do for fun here?" He says, "Oh, we go to a lot of meetings." Well, I said, "Is there anything else?" He says, "Well, about twice a year, we have an AA dance." You ever been to an AA dance with untreated alcoholism? I remember doing that one time. They took me in the van from a halfway house into an AA dance, and I'm standing plastered against the wall with that, remembering why I used to drink. A pint of whiskey, this would have been a good dance. This is not a good dance. This is torture. I can't imagine life without alcohol. And I can't imagine life without it. You know, if AA to me had good news and bad news, the good news is that maybe if I went to thousands of these stupid meetings, I'll stay sober the rest of my life. And the bad news, I'm going to live a long time. So I went to this bridge, and I'm just done. I just want this to stop. I just want it to stop. No more. But I'm a coward, and I've always been a coward. I can talk a good game, and I can act tough in the jail cell, in the cell blocks, and on the streets. But I've always been a coward, really. And I'm afraid. I'm afraid it'll hurt or something. I don't know what I'm afraid of. The very last moment, I can't jump, and I break my hand on this piece of metal on that bridge, and I started sobbing uncontrollably, cursing myself for being a coward. Little did I know that was my last run. Would have never occurred to me. Little did I know that, as Bill talked about, I was about to be rocketed into the fourth dimension of existence. I didn't know what that was. You know, I sponsoring this bright guy who's a professor, taught astronomy and biochemistry and physics, science teacher. And I said to Rob, "Rob, what's this fourth dimension? That sounds kind of science fiction-y. What's that about?" And he said to me, "Well, a lot of physicists recent this century started coming up with the theory that there was 4 dimensions." He says, "Actually, now we think there's even more than that, but Einstein and some of those guys said there were 4 dimensions." He said, in the beginning, they used to think that there was 3 dimensions: the dimension of width, the dimension of height, and the dimension of depth. And he said, Einstein said the 4th dimension was time. So being a self-centered alcoholic, I thought, well, yeah. Well, what's that have to do with me, really? And Rob said, well, maybe you've spent your whole life worrying about the past or anguishing over the future. Maybe if you were to enter the 4th dimension, you'd hear this loud pop as your head came out of your butt and you just show up in your life all of a sudden. And that's why the old-timers, when I was new in sobriety, in this struggling to put the steps in place in my life, which is a very painful process for a guy like me. And it's a very painful process, this staying sober and before you turn the corner. It's a hard deal. And the new guy would go to my first sponsor, and I'd be crazy. I'd be nuts. And I'd just be spewing out all these things I'm afraid of, and this is going to happen. And then by next week, and then I'm probably going to go to prison. And he'd say to me, but right this second, this moment, is everything all right? Well, yeah, but by next weekend. No, he said, no, this second, is everything all right? Well, yeah, but I'm going to be out of a house, I'm going to have a place to live. And no, this second, is everything. Well, yeah, he said, good, okay. When it's no longer good, this second, we'll got something to deal with here. And what I didn't realize is he is trying to center me in the only place that I will find God. It talks about it in chapter 5. There's one who has all power, that one is God. May you find him in a place that most of us never visit. Now! Right? As I'm saying that, there's some of you aren't even here. You're thinking about who you're going to tell that to. You're thinking about, right? You're not even here now, right? And I'm not most of the time. I have this fantasy I'll go to heaven, and St. Pete will meet me at the gate and say, well, Bob, you're on earth 80-some years. We think you're actually present 3 months. The rest of the time you were thinking. And if I got 3 months, I got that in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I got that. I got that sponsoring the guys and really being present, listening to their 5th steps. And the power of being other-centered by how I feel about you. So I can't kill myself, and I ended up, I was hitchhiking cross-country, running from the law, because I know I'm doing 2 years, and now I'm starting to cross state lines, and I end up in Las Vegas, and I'm in this detox, and I'm really sick. And after they dried me out a little bit, they let me go to the AA meetings in there, and something had happened to me in that hospital. And I'll tell you, I don't talk about this too much because I'm suspect of the experience. But one of the counselors in there asked me, I was scared to death because I really was done. I don't want to drink no more. But I'm painfully aware that I'm going to drink again. I'm getting it. I'm getting powerlessness on a level I never suspected. It's bad enough to be powerless over alcohol once you start drinking. I got that years ago. Now what's horrifying to me is I get it, that I'm the guy, even when I make up my mind, really this time I'm never going to touch that stuff, that it's just a matter of time. I always go back to it. Alcoholics of my type with untreated alcoholism, the question is never if I will drink again, the question is when. And some of us it's 10, 15, 20 years, but the question is when. With untreated alcoholism, it's a process of throwing stuff between me and the drink, but the drink's coming for a guy like me. Unless I have a spiritual awakening and stay awake, which is a hard thing to do. I'm a sleepy kind of guy. I get me right on here. So I'm in this place, and I'm going to the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm sitting there. Now, you got to understand, I've been going to meetings for 7.5 years. But I'm sitting in these meetings, and for the first time in my life, I'm sitting there, and, I have this judgment thing, I have this thing in my head I can't shut off. I couldn't hear anything in the meetings because I can't stop running a dialogue over top of what the people are saying. I'm really listening to my thoughts more than I'm listening to them. And when you're doing that and you're picking them apart and trying to find fault with them, it's hard to connect with anything here. But this time, I ain't doing that. This time, I'm just sitting there, and I'm just so demoralized, I'm open. And I found myself sitting there and nodding my head as I'm listening to him and thinking secretly to myself, my God, I'm like that. I'm like those people. I drank like that. I failed like that. I hurt like that. And yet I looked at these people, and they weren't like me anymore. They were those guys that were happy and sober. And this counselor said to me, she said, so, how you doing? I said, oh, I'm doing great. I was doing terrible. I said, I'm doing great. She said, well, what's different? You've been in and out of treatment centers and places like this for all these years. What's different now? And I didn't know what to say to her. So I said to her, I just pulled it out of the air. I said, well, I just took the 3rd step. I don't know what the third step is, but it's an AA sounding kind of thing to say. And it was good. I mean, it was a good thing. She brightened up. She said, really? Oh, that's great. She said, did you say the prayer on page 63 in the big book? And I was almost said yes, but I was afraid she was going to ask me what the prayer said, and then I'd be caught. And I said, no, I just kind of did it my way. Then she gave me this look like I wanted to see if I'd spilled something on myself, this look. And I didn't think nothing of it, moved on, and I'm sitting on my bed one day, and they're getting ready to discharge me. And I am terrified because I know I'm going to drink again. It may not be the day I get out. Maybe I'll put it off. Maybe if I'm lucky and I can put it off a couple months. But I know the truth. I don't have what it takes. No matter how much I make up my mind. This whole thing about just don't drink no matter what. Man, if I could do that, I wouldn't be here now. Really. But I am not that guy. And I'm just so demoralized. I remembered, for some reason, she said page 63, and I opened the big book to page 63. In the middle of the page is this prayer, and it's a funny kind of prayer. It's got those old ancient words like thee and thou and all that stuff, and I started reading it, I don't get it. And then there's a line in the middle of the prayer. It says, relieve me of the bondage of self. And when I read that line, something happened to me, and I can't even put it into words. And I threw that book across that hospital room, and I started sobbing. And I guess on some level that I wasn't even conscious of, I guess I must have known that when I said relieve me of the bondage of self, I guess I knew that the reason I will drink again, and the reason I will probably take my own life, and the reason I burnt my life to the ground, and I continue to do that, is because of me, and I can't get away from me, and I can't change me, and not from a lack of trying, but I can't. And I've been to the best psychiatrists, I've tried the medications, I've tried religion, I've tried churches, I've tried those weekend seminars that just change your life for about 2 weeks. And I started sobbing, and fell down onto my knees, and from the bottom of my heart, to a God I don't even know if it's there or not. I begged something to happen. I begged this God for help. And something happened to me, and I don't know what it was. I'm suspect of the experience. It may be a combination of extreme repressed emotions and DTs. I don't know, or maybe I had some kind of spiritual deal. I don't know. But I'll tell you what came out of the experience was a knowledge that if I could throw myself into Alcoholics Anonymous as obsessively as I threw myself into drinking and trying to arrange life to suit myself, that maybe I would be all right. Maybe I could survive this thing. And I got out of that hospital, and I started going to, I went to 15 meetings a week. And I went to 15, and when I'm not in a meeting, I'm in a coffee shop with somebody talking about Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm doing that because I can't be by myself, right? Because I'm with myself, I'm in the presence of somebody that ain't real big on me. I got this mind that just won't leave me alone. It just starts crazy. And my thinking is not, you can't even tell anybody about it because it's so childish and pathetic and stupid, but it never lets up. You know, I can walk into a meeting, I never had this happen, walk into a meeting, a big meeting, don't know anybody there, and just everybody, feel like everybody's looking at me. Where am I going to sit? I'll sit over there. No, don't sit over there. They'll think you like them. Don't sit over there. No, I'll sit over there. No, well, then now they saw you looking over there. Now, if you don't sit over there, now we're going to do. Well, no, they saw me looking too. Okay, I'll sit back. I end up the back of the room spinning in my head till I eventually can't stay in the meeting because I know everybody's thinking stuff about me. Right? It's just crazy stuff. I used to get. This will sound ridiculous. I tell you. My first year of sobriety, I was dying of cancer 700-800 times. Every time I get I don't get headaches, I get brain tumors. You know, I can't tell you how many just deep, dramatic deathbed speeches I've made up in my head as the people from AA come into the hospital. And they're good. They're just to bring a tear to your eye. They're just great. So I'm nuts. So I got to go to a lot of meetings. And I'm trying to put these steps into place. And I got sober at a time that I think of as the Dark Ages. And I went to conventions, I heard speakers talk about the 12-step process in this book. And yet I lived in a community where everybody's trying to work the steps out of the 12 by 12. And I tried my first couple years. And what kept me physically sober for my first few years is I went on a lot of 12-step work. And I went on a lot of 12-step work. And I got real involved in the fellowship. And I'll tell you something. You work with enough other alcoholics. It may not get you, it may not do what you need to have done, but it can keep you physically sober for a long time. And I had an experience, I'm the guy that when I'm prone to deep depressions. I had a psychiatrist one time, I actually had two psychiatrists tell me I'd probably have to have some kind of medication all my life. And I stand before you and I have taken nothing in all these years. But that, I'll tell you, that requires a high level of involvement in three things: in trusting God, in cleaning house, and in helping others especially, in order to be relieved of the bondage of self. Which is, when this when I get into these depressions, it looks like clinical depression, and it looks like, I'm the guy with some kind of chemical thing, but it ain't. It's the depression of the superly, overly self-involved. I just get my life and my emotions kind of on me like this, like that creature in Alien that attaches itself to your face, right? And what happens is my spirit starts to wither and die because I am suffocating myself with myself and my own feelings and me, and I can't. And when you're like that, it's horrible because there's a loneliness that comes with that, because it looks like the world is so far away. And I didn't realize that self-centered people like me never feel like we fit out here, because the truth is I ain't out here. I'm up here. I'm looking in the wrong direction. And I'm sober a year and a half one night, and I'm sinking into a deep depression. And I'd been to 2 meetings that day. And I don't know what to do. And it's about almost 10 o'clock at night. And I asked God, I said, God, please help me. And I don't know. And I look at the clock, and I'm so. You ever been so depressed that you feel like you weigh 1,000 pounds? I can't get off the sofa. I'm disabled by my emotions. And I look at the clock, and it's almost 10 o'clock, and there's a meeting at 10:15, not too far from my apartment. So I don't know if it was God's grace or a combination of God's grace and a extreme effort of will. I muscled myself off that sofa. I shuffled out to my car like a mope. I got in that car, I drove to that meeting. I'm sitting in the back of the meeting, and I don't hear nothing because I'm thinking about my life. I'm still a victim of a delusion that I can wrest happiness and satisfaction out of this world by managing well, which means I will think myself to some level of betterness, right? If you ever try to think yourself out of a depression, it's like trying to dig yourself out of a hole. You just go deeper, and the more I ponder my life, the bleaker it is. The more, you get into that, everything looks just terrible, and the job I got's never going anywhere, and I'll always be alone, and I'll never get laid, and I'll never have anything, and nobody will ever love me. And when and I don't know what it is about me that when I'm depressed like that and really self-centered, I have this compulsion to draw conclusions about my life, and they're depressing conclusions. And when you're like that, it seems like you've always been that way. I had it one time in an earlier bout of that. I called my sponsor up. I was feeling awful, and he says, "Well, how long have you felt this way?" "Well, I've always felt this way." He said, "No, you were great the other night at the meeting. You were fine." "Well, I was probably in denial." But it looks that way when you're like that. It looks like it's always going to be, and it's hard. And I sit in the back of the meeting, and I can't hear nothing, right? Because the big show's on the inside, right? I'm in here pondering my life. Across the room is a guy who's coming off a drunk, and he's in bad shape. He's sitting there, and he's grabbing himself, and he's rocking back and forth like he wants to jump out of his skin. And then he can't sit. And then he gets up, and he's pacing like a caged animal behind me, back and forth. And then he goes into the bathroom, which is right near where I'm sitting, and you can hear him dry heaving in there. And I'll tell you, this guy's annoying the crap out of me. I'll tell you, I got problems here. I'm trying to figure out my life. I have this illusion I'm about to figure it out, or about to come to some kind of deal. And this guy's just distracting me. And the meeting's over. I've heard nothing in the meeting. And this guy, Charlie P., is the secretary. And I stay after, because I've been trained to do service. And I stay after, and I'm trying to set the chairs up with Charlie, and him and I are the last two guys to leave Duffy's, and we're standing on the front of the thing, and he's locking up, and Charlie's on his way to work because he's got to work the graveyard shift, and I'm looking over, and this guy who's coming off the drunk is laying on the ground in front of my car. I will have to step over him to get in my car and go home and finish thinking, right? Which I would have done, except Charlie's there. Charlie's going, what about this guy, And Charlie's got a big mouth. If I step over this guy and go home, he's going to tell everybody in AA what a lousy member I am. So I go over to him, and I say, how you doing? And he's a mess. He's peed his pants, and he smells, and he's pitiful. And he doesn't have any insurance or money. And at this time in Las Vegas, they hadn't opened the West Care Detox yet. And there was a period of maybe a couple years where if you didn't have insurance or money, man, you were in trouble. Because there was a care unit, but you had to have big time money and stuff to go in there. There was no place to take these guys, except there was one alternative. There's two alternatives. You either had to sit with them 24 hours a day for a couple days, give them a shot of whiskey about every hour, which I wasn't in a position to do. I had to go to work in the morning. There's nobody I could get for backup. Or you could take them to the county hospital. But it was tedious. Because you'd go down to that county hospital, as I've been on many occasions with these drunks, and you'd sit there and they'd make you sit in that waiting room for 5-6 hours sometimes because they don't want to deal with these guys. Now, they have to because they get some government money, but they don't want to because they know it's a waste of time. There's people that are really dying here. These guys are probably going to be back in 2 weeks anyway. They treat you like a redheaded stepchild. So I got this guy in my car, and he smells, and I'm driving down to the hospital, and I'm thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, isn't it enough that my life is crap? I gotta do this stuff. Doesn't anybody else step up to the plate here in AA except me? I'm not gonna get any sleep. I'll go to work in the morning. I'll have a bad attitude. I'll probably get fired, but it's a crappy job anyway, But I ain't saying that. I'm just thinking it. I get down there, and we're sitting there, and he's talking to me, and I'm giving him cigarettes, and I'm getting him orange juice and putting sugar in it and giving it to him because there wasn't any honey. And he starts to tell me about himself. And he starts to tell me about the shame that he can't drink away anymore from what he did to his mom and dad, who really loved him. And he tells me about how much he's thought about committing suicide, but he's such a coward and he can't do it, and how much he hates himself. And then he says something to me that really gets me. He says, I don't even know why you're wasting time with me. He says, I'm not like you people in AA. You see, I always drink again. And he's telling me about me. And I sat there in summertime in the wee hours of the morning. I fell in love with this guy. I don't even know why, really. There's nothing he could ever do for me. I mean, he has nothing he could ever give me. This guy's probably not even going to stay sober a year and give me some kind of credit for something. I mean, this guy's got nothing he can do for me. Except that he suffered from alcoholism exactly like I suffered from alcoholism. And I finally checked him in, and I'm driving home in the wee hours of the morning, and the sun's coming up, and I'm crying, I'm sobbing. And I'm sobbing because I've never felt more complete, more whole, more right about myself and about my life as I did in that moment. And I finally got it. I finally got why the old-timers from day one had been pushing me into 12-step work and pushing me into doing this stuff. And I would do it reluctantly because they knew one day, if I did it long enough, I would turn the corner and I would claim my purpose here. And in that light, the rest of the steps started to fall into place because I just scratched the surface, really. I'm real big on the steps out of the big book, especially I'll tell you nothing. I don't think there's anything I've ever done next to 12-step work in Alcoholics Anonymous that's changed my life more than the 4th step in the book. And when it took me a couple years to do it out of the book. And the part that changed my life the most is a part that, it doesn't seem like two parts that people don't talk about that much. You know, in the resentment section, it spends a whole page, it gives you 7 death threats on page 66. I mean, they're hammering you with this stuff. It's going to kill you. It's poison. I mean, it's infinitely grave. And then after they tell you, you got to get rid of this stuff. It's going to kill you. And then it says, and by the way, you can't. It says you can't wish it away anymore in alcohol. What the hell did you tell me for? And then here's what it says. It says this. Only this is it. This is the one thing. This is the course. It says this was our course. We realized how the people who had harmed us were spiritually sick. And I got that part. Oh, yeah, they're sick and they're idiots too. You know what I mean? But it says more than that. And then it says, it goes on to say that even though we didn't like their symptoms and the way they affected us, that they, and then this is the part that got me, they, like ourselves, were sick too. In other words, they're asking me to get something, to connect the dots inside me. I got to make something real. I got to get it. That I am this guy. I am this guy. I am like this guy. I have to get off my high horse of judgment, stop playing God, and really put myself in their shoes and understand if I was afraid like they were afraid, if I was raised like they were raised, if I had everything going on inside of me that's going on inside of them, and at times I do, how I easily could have done to another human being what they did to me. And then all of a sudden, all the superiority and the separation starts to go away because of what I'm looking at is I'm looking at me. Maybe me on a bad day, but I'm looking at me. And I start to see how this person is like me. And when I did that with all those resentments, what happened is I started to dismantle the judgment machine that was inside of me. The thing that kept me from allowing God to have my life. See, in the section between step 3 and step 4, it talks about step 3 can have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to be rid of the things that have been blocking me. See, I am blocked from turning my will and my life over to the care of God until I dismantle the judgment machine, the thing that has me with a death grip on my own life that's keeping me like this from you. Right? And until I dismantled that, I'm the guy that's constantly giving my life to God and think I'm taking it back. I ain't taking it back. I never gave it to Him. I still got it. I'm still playing God. And when I tell you something, this amazed me because all of a sudden I started to the exact nature of my wrongs was really how wrong I had been about my mother and father. I blamed them for a lot of stuff, and they never did anything out of line. They loved me. All the women in my life that I judged so harshly, and the bosses and the police and the people I had worked with, and I built cases against all these people. And when I stood in their shoes and I looked at it from an other-centered rather than a self-centered perspective, and I saw it through their eyes, man, the world changed for me. And I've never been the same since. And then the last part, it says disregarding the other person involved entirely. I had to push. I am a master at finding something wrong with you and hiding my behavior behind it. That's one of the most dangerous things that we say in Alcoholics Anonymous, in my view. And I said this for years and didn't realize, and I started feeling bad about it. So when we say, well, I was looking for my part. No. Because if you're looking for your part, this is a whole, this is a part, there's another part. So if I'm looking for my part, I'm still, the back of my mind, holding on to the idea they got a part too. And I didn't get why I was out of line with that until I'm dealing with a guy I've sponsored who tried to make an amends to someone. He's talking about, well, I cleaned up my side of the street. And he was pissed because they didn't make amends to him. Because he still hung on to his part. It was his part and their part. The book doesn't say anything about part. Disregarding the other person involved entirely. We resolutely look for our own mistakes. We don't even consider them. And for the first time in my life, I had to look at my own behavior, not in the light of what wrongs they'd done. But let's imagine, the book says we were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. Am I really willing to do that? Am I really willing to look at what kind of a son I was on its own light and not hide behind the indiscretions of my parents and their imperfection? See, I was the kind of guy, if I worked for a guy and I caught him doing something wrong, that was justification to steal from him. If I was in a relationship, I could find something wrong with you, or maybe if I caught you cheating on me or even looking like you were cheating, that was a pass to go cheat on you about 10 times. I mean, you know what I mean? I use that as and then I could feel justified. And the book's asking me to look at my own behavior in its own light, and I can't hide behind the wrongdoings of others. And for the first time in my life, I started to take the responsibility for who I was. And I started to clear away the things in me that had been blocking me. I didn't know from God. It looked like I was only clearing away the things that blocked me from you. But I tell you, a funny thing happened. As I cleared away the separation between me and you, God showed up. He showed up. There was an old poem in the Grapevine. It's kind of a corny poem. It said, I sought myself and could not see. I sought my God, he eluded me. I sought my brother, I found all three. And a funny thing happens is as I got closer to you and I reduced the separation between me and you, is that I started to find God in my heart. As I started to forgive you and understand you and love you as is, I started to feel God's presence, and I didn't try to directly access his presence. It came as a result of getting my self-centered will and judgment out of the way. God showed up. And I am just like Bill Wilson. I'm constantly haunted by worldly clamors that keep coming back in here, and fears. And I just went through it. I was crazy for about a day and a half this week. I made a decision based on self and got into this one stock in the stock market for oh my God. And I went upside down a lot of money in like a couple of days. I mean, a lot of money. But, the truth is I'm all right. The truth is, that stuff doesn't make you whole. I mean, if money and material possessions were a treatment for alcoholism, then rich people wouldn't be blowing their brains out in mansions from alcoholism. But the truth is, in the demographic of alcoholics that commit suicide, that's the highest are the ones that are very wealthy. There's only one thing that keeps me centered here, and that's a God in my life that I trust. And I basically come to the table with that because I get it. I can't trust me. I clear away the stuff between me and you, and I claim my purpose, which is to go out and help people just like me. I'll tell you a quick little story. I was up. I'd like to talk about a minute about amends. I'll tell you, I don't know what it is about me. I attract a lot of people that come and ask me to sponsor them that are sober a long time, over 20 years, and their life is like really upside down. And some of these people make a lot of money, like over $100,000 a year, and the more money they make, the broker they get, right? And they see the trappings, and they think that I'm going to teach them how to manage money or make more money or some crap. I know that's why they ask me. And then when we start getting into the steps, it's always the same thing. We always, without exception, uncover unmade financial amends that they think they got away with. And I'm telling you, it's to the point where I just go right there now with guys like that. I just because I can get it that's the deal. And in inevitability, there's something that they haven't done. I have a guy now who's almost 20 years sober who makes over $100,000 a year, and he's been going so deep into debt, and he's got 4 financial amends he's never made. He's made a lot of amends, and I'll tell you, there's a world of difference between making all your amends and making all but one. Right? There's a big difference. There's a big difference. I was up in Northern California about 15 years ago, and I was at this place that was amazing. And these guys take this Sunday afternoon. I had a couple hours to kill before I got on a plane, and he took me to this place that blew my mind. They had these trees that were like 300 feet high. And some of them were 30 feet in diameter. You may have seen pictures of some of them. There's one that has a road through it. It's so big. These trees are unbelievable. And I'm walking around this forest, and it's a very humbling thing. I felt very small and very insignificant. It was like being in Jurassic Park or something. It was an amazing place. And as I'm walking around with it, I'm talking with this guy, and he says, let's go to another place where there's more of these trees. And we get in his truck, and we're driving for a while, and we're driving through these meadows to this other place where the trees are. And he says, do you notice how there's none of these 300-foot trees standing all by themselves in these meadows? I said, yeah, how come? He said, well, it is their nature to aspire to grow to such magnificent heights that what happens is they outgrow their root system, his ability to support them, and they literally will topple over on their own magnificence. He said what happens is they grow up in these groves and they intertwine their roots into a net below the forest below the forest, and this net literally they hold each other up, and it allows them to grow into their nature. And I thought to myself, how much like Alcoholics Anonymous that is. You see, I have always been the chronic malcontent. I have always been the guy that it is my nature to want more. I'm an alcoholic like Bill Wilson. Bill Wilson had a conversation with Father Ed Dowling after he'd been sober a lot of years, and he told Ed, he said, I don't know what's wrong with me. My life's good now. It's better than it's been in a while. Kind of through those depressions and stuff, and yet I'm not satisfied. I had this, it's not enough. Nothing seems to really be enough. And Ed said to Bill, he laughed, he said, you have what we in the clergy think of as God's greatest blessing, divine dissatisfaction. Because it pushes you, drags you, and shoves you, sometimes screaming into being more than what you are. And it is this divine dissatisfaction that almost killed me in my hands. And when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, and when I came to you and I came to this process that started to clear away enough of me to bring a God into my life, and I have a sponsor, and I have commitments, and I am tethered to AA, I look today just as serious about Alcoholics Anonymous as I looked when I was new. You can watch my feet today, and you can watch my feet 20 years ago, and you'll see the same guy. And you'll see the same guy through times of abundance and through times of fear, and I never change the plan. I show up among you. I'm active in all three legacies: unity, service, and recovery. And because it's a whole package here. It's like a three-legged stool. I take away one of those legs, and I'm doing a balancing act on two legs. Right? I do it all here because it's my life. I'm not the guy that's okay when he stops drinking. I'm the guy that needs Alcoholics Anonymous with everything in me. With everything in me. If you're new here, I want to welcome you to AA. I don't know if you suffered from alcoholism or suffer from alcoholism as I do. I know that not everybody relates to me. But I'll tell you, if you have suffered from alcoholism the way I do, and you can find yourself as I did in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you will get with someone in your group or area that knows about that book and can take you through that process, I will promise you that there will come a time as you turn the corner and start to give it away to others, where you will look around you and you will not see a person on the face of the earth that you would rather be than you. Thank you for my life.
You did a good job. I kind of had my doubts there at first when he let y'all see the little paper I wrote. It didn't bother me. He didn't read the other 4 pages. Hey, we got you something here, man. Anything else you need to say?
Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock.
We got another speaker tomorrow morning, at 10 o'clock. Our spiritual speaker is going to be Joy, our own Joy from Central Office. I won't miss that. And we got a dance tonight at 10 o'clock. Well, after this, it'll be a dance here in this room. No.
Across the hall, Mason 1.
I'm sorry, across the hall. Upstairs, Mesa 1. Al-Anon says. Okay. Y'all help me close this with Lord's Prayer.
You're good, Miss Glenn. Are we going down?
Yeah, I guess it's better.